Up+Adam.
Tractor systems are offline.
We are Beyond FM.
Beyond FM.
The future of broadcasting is here.
Up+Adam with Adam Montiel. It's community content from Concentrate. It's Up+Adam with Adam Montiel.
Some say life is where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Yes, some say life is just where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
True Crime Tuesday, Up+Adam. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Adam Montiel. Rainy Tuesday. Perfect day for a True Crime Tuesday, huh? What if the man who took down one of the most dangerous drug cartels on earth was living under the roof the whole time? Ex-FBI Special Agent Martin Suarez spent 23 years undercover, smuggling $1 billion in cocaine, laundering millions for the cartel, and walking a razor's edge between duty and literal death. Now, with ALS reshaping his life, he is breaking decades of silence. Coming up, we're going to go inside the cartel with Martin Suarez, also journalist and co-author Ian Frisch. And we're going to hear the unbelievable story from this guy himself. Story of an agent who became a legend by becoming one of them. Unbelievable. A True Crime Tuesday for the ages today. Super excited. Thanks for your patience on this one. A little bit late publishing it out. Let me tell you about Arttober. And I want to get right into the chat. There is this article that the San Francisco Gate, SF Gate wrote it about slow downtown. It's pretty brutal. And it's, you know, it's bad when they're straight hating on you, hating on your downtown, and San Francisco's writing the article. Like, what the absolute, I mean, it's wild, but it's still pretty stinging. It's still brutal. I do want to talk about that SF Gate article about downtown slow. It's just, let's do it tomorrow. I want to see if I can get a guest about it too. So I want to get right into our chat with Martin and Ian, because this one is good. Before that, October in San Luis Obispo, anything but ordinary. It is Arttober. From live performances to public art, museums, and the always fantastic piano in the plaza. Creativity is everywhere, all around you. Don't miss it. Find your Arttober adventure at slowcity.org/Arttober.
It's Up+Adam with Adam Montiel.
All right, he has been called the greatest undercover agent in FBI history. Yeah, 23 years inside the Colombian cartel as Manny, a man who smuggled billions in cocaine to bring down an empire. And now he faces his toughest personal battle yet with ALS. Martin Suarez is stepping out of the shadows to tell his story for the first time before he cannot. His memoir, Inside the Cartel, co-authored with journalist Ian Frisch, is not just a true crime thriller. It's a human story about courage, sacrifice, cost of living, literally 2 lives. You'll hear that Martin's voice has been affected by ALS, but his strength, his clarity, and the power of his story come through louder than ever. And if you're not familiar with ALS, know this: the mind stays sharp, completely 100% intact. And you can feel that clarity and conviction in every word that he speaks. Martin is here. Ian, thank you so much for being here as well. Welcome, both of you gentlemen. Thanks for being Up+Adam.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having us.
Now, we talk a lot about sacrifice when it comes to service, but going undercover, I mean, it isn't just about hiding your identity. It's about kind of living someone else's life and taking that on. Martin, when you became Manny, what was the first moment where you felt yourself starting to disappear? And looking back now, do you think there was ever a clean line between who Manny was and who Martin was still trying to be?
No, there was not a clear line, a bright line, like I like to say. But because of that, I was able to morph back and forth. There wasn't a wall between our identities. It just took some discipline to not slip up. So when I was Manny in full. I never compartmentalized it because that's what you project to bad guys. that you're worried about something else, that you're not who you say you are.
Right. You know, a life like yours could have easily stayed in the shadows, but then ALS changes everything. Was there a moment after your diagnosis, Martin, where you knew, I have to tell this story now?
Yes, it's best time to do it, in that I can still talk and walk and do a bunch of things. If I wasn't doing these memoirs, probably would sit in front of the TV, and I'm not about to do that.
Yeah.
So.
You know, the Medellin and Cali cartels, they didn't just let anyone in, right? The trust was everything. And one mistake, it's over. What was the moment when you knew, Martin, that you earned their trust, not just as a smuggler, but as like one of them?
A few times. That's what led me to continue operating with them. I would guess the first time is when my sources introduced me to high levels, and we worked out a way that I was going to transfer 3,000 kilos for them. They won't do that for first comers, but I wasn't a first comer, and technically I had the help of some very good sources. And one of them was a personal pilot of a drug lord in the Medellin cartel. So he lent me all the credibility that I needed. And that was very effective. This guy was insane with his wife, very effective, deflecting the blame to other areas and not to me.
Yeah, I've had a couple conversations this year with a couple other folks with books who went undercover. And one of these stories, and I'm wondering if you have a story like this, where dude was in the grocery store line with his buddies, undercover, right? With this motorcycle club. Undercover in a grocery line, sees a dude who he grew up next door to 25, 30, 40 years ago, right? Old childhood neighborhood friend, next door neighbor. And he's like, oh my God, this literally could go away right now. And he's just waiting. And the guy like kind of got a sense, like not to say, didn't say anything. Did you ever have any close moments where you're like, oh shit, this is wild?
A few moments with my wife and my sons, but it wasn't that big of a deal for me, because I realized I didn't have a lot of friends. My closest friends and compadres were my fellow agents, and I had plenty of those friends. We had barbecues and traveled together and whatnot, but I didn't have a lot of civilian friends, for lack of a better term, because my close friends I left in Puerto Rico when I was growing up, and they have since disappeared to the U.S. So there never was an environment that I was going to run into someone, although I did a couple of times.
Well, Adam, I just kind of want to jump in.
Please, Ian, please.
Martin's wife, Maria, may answer this question a little bit differently. And we talk about one instance in the book where Martin and Maria are out on the beach together on a date.
Right.
Very rare for them at the time, because Martin's undercover. He would disappear for weeks at a time. They're walking down the beach, enjoying themselves. Martin hears from over his shoulder, Manny, which is his undercover alias. He turns around, and it's a Colombian money launderer with whom he had built a relationship through working as a smuggler for the Medellin and Cali cartels. And he's with Maria. So he has to immediately switch into Manny, talk the talk, walk the walk. But Maria has to also play a role as well. And Martin had told her previously, look, I'm doing some undercover stuff. But he couldn't tell her exactly what, because a lot of it was classified.
Yeah.
But as soon as Maria heard his accent and saw his clothes and knew he was Colombian, she immediately got it and was like, oh shit, okay, Martin is doing
Wow.
this. So she had to just be cordial, hi, how are you type of stuff. And then when they walked away together after the encounter, which went smoothly, Maria turned to Martin and said, don't worry, honey, I know not to say a thing.
Yeah. Oh, ride or die woman there. That is unreal. I love that story. And thanks for chiming in, Ian. You're welcome to the whole time. And I'll tell you, Martin, that scene that opens the book, I mean, it reads like a movie. A hitman in your backyard, gun to your head, kids just left for school. In that moment with like death literally behind you, what was the last thought that made you move? Or what was the moment that Martin took back control from Manny? Or was it something else?
I can't remember how scared I was. That's why I say I downplayed it a lot. But yeah, it was a surprise. I look back and I see this guy standing there with a mask and gloves. And that alone let me understand. I believe he was a professional and that he wouldn't come close enough for me to jump him, but he wasn't far enough for me to run away. So I wanted to run away. I figured that was my best chance. But he told me, I know what you're thinking. He used a lot of foul words and very intimidating with the beady eyes behind the mask. I decided not to run. So I sat there for over an hour getting abused by this guy and more psychologically than physically. I got whacked a couple of times in the back of the head, but yeah, it was just, I didn't realize how scared I was until everything was done. I was shaking, but I was so glad to have survived it. And I think I survived it by talking the guy out of it. Although I didn't, but I gained a lot of time.
Wow. Ian, this wasn't just a co-writing job for you. You kind of become therapist, confidant, really that lens through which Martin can tell his truth. What surprised you most as you got to know the man behind the mission, not the agent, but the person?
Well, for me, when we started writing this book, I really wanted to feel like a fully realized, round, truly narrative account of one of Martin's most consequential cases, because a lot of FBI memoirs, a lot of undercover memoirs in general, kind of end up being an anthology of the greatest hits. And Martin's career is 23 years working undercover. We could have done the greatest hits. But I felt like this story and this case really spoke volumes to not only a place in time when it came to the war on drugs, but the lengths Martin went to try to accomplish the mission set forth by the FBI. But again, the most surprising part to me was the family narrative that underpinned this case. And that's really a huge reason why we chose to zero in on the first 6 years of his career as an FBI agent working undercover, because of the toll it took on his family and how close danger crept to their doorstep. But the moral imperative of Martin was not only for his country and for the mission set forth by the Bureau, but to show his children what a man could do in this world if he dedicated himself to a noble pursuit, and to kind of allow his father in some ways to live vicariously through his actions. The irony at the end of the day being that he couldn't tell his kids what he's doing, couldn't tell his dad what he's doing. So you're living with this tug of war of, I know what I'm doing is right, but I can't tell anyone about it.
Wow. That is so heavy. Martin, you said before the war on drugs was really never fought and it could never be won. Why did you believe that? And what if you were designing a real strategy to take on cartels today? Where would one even start?
So we should start with, like I said, a combined team of assets, like the military and the law enforcement, but they have to work closely. And everybody has to leave their egos or their budgets aside. So for this to be successful, we can win it, but the will sometimes is not there. You start the war on drugs, but you never finish it or even carry it through the years. So you might have 4 years of good fighting, and you start hurting them really bad. They feel it. They start pointing fingers at each other. That's the most important component of undercover operation. They don't know where the heat came from. And then, so that is paralyzing to them. If they believe that one of their associates is a snitch, you know. So that's how you win the war on drugs. Consistency and the willingness to do it.
You know, Ian mentioned your father a second ago, and you write about him with such reverence. He was the reason you joined the FBI, I think. And I'm curious, what part of your father did you carry into every dangerous moment, and what part of him do you still carry now?
I was in awe with that man because he was a real brave soul in every way. Just his stature was 6'4", and he was humble and kind. But he had if anybody crossed him, what he felt was unfair, he will let you know. And he hated bullies, and he always worked against them and protect the little guys. So, yeah, I mean, that's what I learned mostly about him, is that you need to contribute in order to call yourself part of this world.
You know, Ian, you've written about magic, deception, high-stakes crime, but this story, I imagine, cracked you open. What was the first moment where you kind of knew this book wasn't just going to be about, you know, kind of like you alluded to before, just like undercover work, the greatest hits, but really what it means to be a man, a father, a son?
Well, when we first started speaking about the influence Martin's father had on him, you know, Martin got emotional and he choked up. And that's when I really realized that that element of this story is what's really going to allow it to transcend genre. It's really going to allow someone to feel an emotional connection to Martin as a person and as a character in this story, but certainly as a person who is, again, fully round and fully realized in terms of his motivations for doing this. And as a storyteller, traditionally a magazine writer, but in doing books as well, you really want a layer that can kind of zero in on a philosophical conflict. And that's really where this sort of tug of war between Martin and Manny really starts to feel cemented, is when you get into these deeper emotional family-driven layers. And I kind of had an idea that that was probably in there somewhere, and it took a little bit of time for me to pry it out of Martin. But I commend him for being so vulnerable and being so willing to really mine that. And the way you put it earlier, to allow me to be a little bit of a therapist in those moments.
You know, Martin, El Toro Negro is free, back in Colombia, re-entrenched in power, and he remembers you. Was publishing this book the most dangerous thing you've ever done?
I don't think about it that way. He has such incredibly active, nefarious life that I think he has so many enemies. In fact, I know he does. And so perhaps in the totem pole, I'm at the bottom of his enemies. Perhaps he doesn't even remember me. He did 20 years. Mm-hmm. Although I doubt it. I think it would. Yeah.
Yeah, let's hope so, Martin. Let's hope he doesn't remember you for our sake.
You know, you went from infiltrating cartels, Martin, to fighting a disease that has no rules. I worked a little bit with the ALS Association in LA, and I've met a lot of folks like you, and It's an incredible, the strength you have is absolutely incredible. And I'm wondering, does ALS feel like its own undercover mission where you're navigating a world that really few understand?
Yes, the loneliness is the biggest part. When you work undercover, sometimes you feel very lonely, especially in international work and Poland and UK, whatever. And so that loneliness feeling permeates somewhat into this reality today. But I try not to think about it too much. I try to, whenever I have some difficulties, I say to myself, but you're walking still. You're still walking, you're still talking. So one day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can't thank you just for the courage, the bravery, for coming on here, your time, and to have this much time with you, a nice, good 20 minutes. This really felt good. And Ian, I really thank you for your time as well.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin. Appreciate you a lot. Thank you for being Up and Adam. All the links in the show notes for an incredible piece. I mean, you guys did a masterful job on this book, both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Some say life's where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again.
All right, what an incredible story. Even more, an incredible man, Martin Suarez. Thank you so much for the service, the courage, both in the field and in your life today, my man. Thank you, Ian, for being there too with him. That's fantastic book. Can't recommend it enough. HarperCollins, the link in the show notes to everything there. Also, you can want to follow Ian on Insta. I got all the links there. Man, woo, the True Crime Tuesday. I'm fascinated too by these guys who go undercover and then something, remember like that one story I brought up where where like real life brushes in there for a second? Nothing freakier than that. Wow. All right. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Rain off and on today, but after tomorrow, looking sunny and nice. Winemakers not super thrilled with this little rain. Everything was so smooth, so good, so chill. Happy Harvest 2025. All right, thanks to Moonshiner Collective for original music on the show called Start Again. Stream them online wherever you get your music. Also, moonshinercollective.com to learn more. Thanks to Josh and Chiasa Clapper, my friends at Tamber Winery. Taste their world-class wines in the village of Arroyo Grande, the Arroyo Grande Village. Check them out, Tamber Winery, Timbre, tamberwinery.com, and I thank them for the Tamber Low Road Studios. Thanks to you for rating, reviewing, subscribing to the show. Got a new review there. Made my day. You have the power to make someone's day. So whoever did that last one, that was like beautiful something 0878. I don't know. It was great. It was awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I got a brand new episode of my podcast with Paso Wine, Where Wine Takes You. I have, here's a little clip from the show. It's like 20 seconds, but it's a funny clip where I asked the guys, they're all vineyard managers, if they pee in the vineyard. Check it out. You guys pee in the vineyard, right?
I heard somebody did.
Do people pee? I mean, pee in the...
It's against
company policy to pee in the vineyard.
So
we're going to take that level and stick with it. Now, if you're a client of ours, wide open. Yeah. Stefan Aseo.
At least turn around for the
A brand new episode of Where Wine Takes You, available wherever you get your podcasts and at PasoWine.com. I love that. So funny, those guys just busting up that episode, full laughs, full send. I just posted that video on my Insta, but funny little moment. Okay, so yeah, brand new episode of Where Wine Takes You, available wherever you get your podcasts. Where you're listening to this, you can listen to that, or you can go to PasoWine.com. Appreciate you more than you know. Thanks for being patient with this weather. I know your dogs hate it. My dogs hate it. Go potty. Let's go potty, guys. Till tomorrow. Thank you for being Up and Adam.
Some say life's where it begins. Straight to the stars is where it ends. Only to start again. Let's start again. We'll start again.